You've just finished putting the last touches to the Seder table. The house has been scrubbed from top to toe. No mercy has been shown to the smallest piece of chametz. In this war, there are no prisoners. Your husband has spent the last month reviewing all the halachas, the laws of Pesach, and he's bought one of those new crop of Haggadot that appear at this time of year, looking for inspiring words of Torah to be devoured along with the matzah on the night of the Seder. You gather around the table and begin the Seder. Jews have done this for nearly 3,500 years. You remember your Bubba and your Zayda, and they no doubt remembered theirs. And your children, shining in their Yom Tov best, gaze up at your parents' memories being made. Chains of love stretching across millennia. Here it is, the moment we've all waited for. And yet, what is it? Something's lacking. The children don't want to listen to the Haggadah. They want to eat the matzah now. They've absolutely no interest whatsoever in why Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah said he was like a man of 70 years old. You'd love to listen to the Haggadah, but at this crucial moment the light has gone out under the chicken soup and panic stations have been declared. Why is it that every Pesach seems somehow, I don't know. You start off with such high hopes. This year, it's going to be different. This year, we're really going to experience what it means to come out of Egypt. This year, and if it can't be this year in Jerusalem, at least it could be this year with a real Pesach-dika feeling. The great tzaddik, Rabbi Shmuel Koreva, a Talmud of the Seer of Lublin, was a poor man. He lived constantly on the breadline and was always in need of help. Pesach was rapidly approaching, and in Reb Shmuel's house there was nothing. No matzah, no wine, no charosis, no food, no money, no nothing. And in spite of these dire circumstances, Reb Shmuel was convinced that Hashem wouldn't desert him, everything would be fine. The Seer of Lublin heard of Reb Shmuel's plight and was worried about him. He dispatched one of his wealthy Hasidim, Reb Shlomo, to quietly provide for Reb Shmuel and his needs. On Erev Pesach, a wagon laden with food and crockery, wine and matzahs arrived at Reb Shmuel's door. He was overjoyed. Here, in the twinkling of an eye, was Hashem's deliverance. And that night, Reb Shmuel sat down and conducted his Seder with a joy and a feeling of the coming out of Egypt, which was unparalleled in all his holy life. He imagined himself ascending to the upper worlds, born on a tremendous joy that Hashem had provided for him without having to ask for charity. His unbridled happiness made him feel that no one had ever experienced such a Seder as this at all. This was it. You couldn't go any higher. Now, on the second night of the Seder, Reb Shmuel was tired from all the elevation of the previous night, and he decided to rest a little before beginning the second Seder. He lay down on his bed for a couple of minutes, and he was thinking that he really ought to get up when he drifted off to sleep. Several hours later, he awoke with a start. What's the time? He glanced at the clock and was horrified to see that it was nearly midnight. In just a short while, the last time to eat the afikoman would pass. Reb Shmuel was broken in tears. He rushed to fulfill the mitzvahs of the Seder, Kiddush, reciting the Haggadah, the 4 cups, eating the matzah, the bitter herbs, the charoses, the festive meal, and finally, seconds before midnight, eating the afikoman. Reb Shmuel fell into a deep depression. It seemed to him that never in the entire history of the Jewish people had there been such a miserable Seder. It had been a shambles. After Pesach, Reb Shmuel traveled to visit his teacher, the Seer of Lublin. And immediately after he had greeted him, the Seer said to Reb Shmuel, "Come, let us examine the 2 Sedorim of Reb Shmuel." Now, the first night was below par, considering who Reb Shmuel is. Reb Shmuel imagined himself to be hovering in the worlds above. You thought there'd never been a Seder like this before. No, that wasn't a great Seder. But the second Seder, now, there was a Seder. Few have flown to the heights that Reb Shmuel reached on his second Seder, broken and spirited and humble, wanting no more than to fulfill the will of the Master of the world. As it says, the sacrifices of God are a broken spirit. So when you're sitting down at your Seder table and the kids are screaming, when you have to get up from the table for the nth time, and when you manage to finish the last of the matzvah just before the soup boils over and you start to feel frustrated and saddened and a long way from Pesach, remember Reb Shmuel.